Why would you say politics is important to teenagers in particular?
Well, politics is important to absolutely everybody because it shapes every single aspect of our lives. I've always believed myself that people have an obligation and a duty as citizens of the country that they belong to take part in those major decisions that shape the future of that country. And as young people who are coming up to being of voting age have a longer stake in the future of our nation than anybody else, then in some ways I think you could say that the responsibility to take part in the great democratic process is even more so for them, but the rewards of doing so are greater as well.
Okay, thank you. What can your party do for young people who are looking to go on to further education?
Well, the Labour Party's policy is very much focused for young people on bread and butter issues of education and employment. Allowances are still available for those young people who need that extra bit of financial help in order to enable them to go on into further education. We continue to underpin the fees that students pay at universities, capped at the £3,000 level in Wales compared to £9,000 and rising across our border. Both of those are policies that require substantial funding. That's a deliberate policy choice by Labour, and it's a policy choice that is all about investing in those young people who will be the graduates and the workers of the future. For young people for whom education is not the best route forward, then we are very determined that those young people will have a better route into employment. It's why we've had what's called Jobs Growth Wales, which has been a fantastically successful scheme in this Assembly term. We're going to expand it further in the next Assembly term, and it gives young people a direct route into employment where people are trained, learn properly on the job, see a route into a better future for themselves and those who are important to them.
Oh, thank you very much. So how will the results of this year's EU referendum affect teenagers living in Wales?
Well, I think it would profoundly affect the future of teenagers in Wales. Let me say clearly, I am in favour of remaining in the European Union, not because I am a supporter of the way the European Union does everything in the way that it does it today. I think the Labour Party has a very clear reform agenda for Europe. But if you want to reform an institution, you have to be inside it to do it, not outside it. I think Wales is a European nation. I think as a bilingual nation, we're in the European mainstream. I think we punch above our weight at the European level. I think we benefit hugely from European investment and from European markets. I fear for the future of many young people if we embark upon some gigantic English nationalist experiment, taking the United Kingdom out of Europe. It will be the end of the United Kingdom, I would predict. I think Scotland will move very quickly to leave the United Kingdom if the United Kingdom seeks to leave Europe, and that is very bad for Wales and very bad for young people growing up in Wales.
Okay, thank you. So Welsh Labour is holding the Cardiff West constituency currently, and has done since the Assembly was formed in 1999. The other parties might be trying to end this track record. Do you feel threatened by this at all?
Of course, you're right. Labour has won Cardiff West in Assembly elections. I absolutely take nothing for granted in any election. I hope to be re-elected because I hope that people in Cardiff West see that Kevin Brennan, the Member of Parliament, and myself, we work really hard in every part of this constituency, representing individuals who need our help, being involved in community issues where they are important as well. We will take our record to people in Cardiff West, and we will also take the offer that we make for the future to go on making sure that the interests of this very important part of Wales are fully heard at the National Assembly, and that we go on working hard at both an individual and a community level to represent the needs of this very diverse constituency.
Oh, thank you very much.
Junior doctors are only striking in England. As your role as the Welsh Assembly Government Minister for Health and Social Services, what is the Welsh Assembly doing differently for junior doctors and the NHS in general?
Well, on the issue of junior doctors in particular, I've taken a very different approach with all our staff in the NHS in Wales. Junior doctors are on strike in England yesterday and today, and this time last year, nurses and other workers in the English NHS were on strike, and we've never had strikes in Wales. And that's because my belief is that our single greatest asset in our health service are those incredibly skilled and dedicated people who work for it. When change is necessary, and there are things that we need to change in some of the contracts that employ our staff to bring them up to date and so on. But when we need change, then what we aim to do in Wales is to get everybody around the table, to face the difficult issues which are there together, to talk, to negotiate, and in the end agree a way forward. So it's about a respect agenda in many ways. It's simply about saying to our junior doctors, you are really valuable to us. And while we do need to find solutions to some problems that we face together, let's find those solutions together, even when those solutions are themselves quite challenging. And it's because we have that different attitude, that different approach to our staff, that doctors in Wales are not on strike, will not be going on strike. And when we finally come to the end of this very bitter and very divisive road that the Conservative Secretary of State in England has embarked upon, we will find a way through in Wales based on agreement and mutual respect.
Yeah, thank you. Do you have time for one last question?
I've got time for one more question, indeed.
Okay, thank you.
Your party's Assembly election manifesto hasn't clearly said how you plan to support university students. Can you clarify Labour's plans for Welsh university students? So
we have a system here in Wales where we cap the contribution that students must make at £3,000 for each year of their course. We do have a review of the way that the funding of higher education in general is being carried out. It's been carried out by a Vice-Chancellor of a university outside Wales, a very distinguished sort of figure in the field of higher education finance. That report will not come to fruition until the next Assembly term, but as soon as it does, and it's expected early in the term, then whoever is in government then, whether it's Labour or any other parties, they will have that report in order to make the decisions that will be necessary to go on supporting students, to go on supporting higher education institutions here in Wales, both for their teaching and for their research functions, and to make sure that we are able to sustain that sector and the young people.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it that you've given us time to speak to you.
You're very welcome. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thanks to you all.
This is the Bishop of Landa School Report.